All right. Welcome, everybody. It's 7 p.m. Wednesday, February 11th. So welcome to the February 2026 meeting of the Contra Costa County El Sobrante Municipal Advisory Council. So we are an advisory council which supports the Contra Costa Board of Supervisors, specifically District 1 Supervisor John Joya, who is joining us here. And we'll start off by having a roll call.
My name's George Cleveland here. Randy Lowen
Here.
Terry Edlinger here. Jed Hart
Here.
Mickey Norris here. Tom Owens here. And I believe Jim Herman is excused.
Did you mark me just in time?
Just in
Just.
Yes. Or kindly just.
Right. So, Randy, I guess you've agreed to this in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I think that's a great idea.
Thanks.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As soon as possible. Hello. The fun people are here tonight. That's fun.
We'll save the fun till later. Our treasurer's report on.
So setting $3,000.
Do any of the members have any corrections they might make to the minutes of the previous meeting?
I'd like to make a motion to accept minutes for the January 14th MAC meeting with any.
Yes, that's correct. All right. Second. So, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Abstain.
And so we begin our regularly scheduled presentations. And we'll start off with the county update. Supervisor Joya.
Thank you. And I know I'll leave the fire update to fire. So there's a few items I will cover. First, as you may have seen, the county, we had about $5 million in some federal funds left over after the pandemic that we decided to allocate $1 million per supervisorial district for a community impact fund grant program. And that program in our district, I have made the focus be about closing health and economic disparities and helping achieve equity across our West County community. And we just opened a grant program at the beginning of February. And the applications are relatively easy. Each grant, it can be up to $50,000. So assuming there's $50,000 grants, that would be 20 grants, right? $1 million. And so we have publicized that. We want to continue to do that. Nonprofits only are eligible. Or if you have a project, you can have a nonprofit fiscal agent. Again, I can go through these all and then take questions at the end. So that all of District 1 is eligible for that. I'm hoping to have final decisions on the grants made by the end of March. So the grant applications are due at the end of February. Second, I serve on the Air District Board, and the Air District announced a larger program of these are larger grants, and these are all available on our website. we sent e-blast out, which you should have received. It is of $36 million in fines and penalties and settlement funds collected from Chevron Refinery in Richmond. Um, that is for impacted areas. There was a boundary. The state and the air district set up a community steering committee a few years ago focused on pollution reduction around the refinery. And there's a map. Only a small part of El Sobrante is in that map. And I don't know, Ronnie, we can put that up and show that. I think that would be useful. Um, and I have it too, Ronnie, but do you want to put it up or should I?
I'm grabbing it now.
Okay. And that application period is open until the end of May. And it is focused on improving health and transitions in economic transitions away from fossil fuels, but also really about health. And I would encourage anyone interested in any of those to go to our website, and you will see information about both on our homepage. But let me just show you, there's a lot to go into on this. And the Air District a is having a webinar coming up, and all that information is in what I have posted.
It may be easier, John, if you have it up to show the map.
Okay, I could share it, correct?
Yes.
All right. So this map, I'll pull it up here. Um, hmm, okay, hold on. I had it sent this afternoon, so let me pull it up. Okay, I have it here. Um, and it deals with specific impacts out of the Chevron refinery. All right, here's the map. I'm going to open it up so it's more detailed. Okay, let me do a share now. All right, can you see that map?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, you can see, and this was defined by the broader review of a resident. So you can see here, just to note, there's part of El Sobrante and the Rolling Wood neighborhood. So that I just wanted you to see the area that is within the eligible use of the grant. So that is the area just showing El Sobrante. As you can see, only a small part of Western El Sobrante. It does include East Richmond Heights, but not over the hill. So that is the $36 million fund, and you can zoom into a webinar that is coming up. All the information on this is on our website. Next item, you remember, I think I gave a report that when the federal government was going to, during the shutdown, was going to have a cutback on um, food stamps on what's called CalFresh. We put up about $20 million in our reserves for possible use to create debit cards for residents who have CalFresh food stamp eligibility. And we didn't need those because at the last moment, we have the federal government came through and with their dollars, so we did not need to spend that money. We did hear a lot about increased needs for food from the various the food bank and the food pantries. So we allocated, we have, I think, $4 million we allocated out of Measure X, several million in extra assistance to food banks. Part of that is something that I advocated for, that El Sobrante is eligible for, and that is $1 million countywide to help local churches and food pantries upgrade their kitchens or get additional vehicles. And the food bank of Contra Costa and Solano is going to administer the grant process. So that'll probably be in March or April that will come out. We will publicize that. I am meeting with them um, um, on that here in the next couple of weeks, and we will publicize that grant opportunity. It's $1 million to, as I say, local organizations that may be feeding people through their church or nonprofit or a pantry, and it's designed to upgrade their kitchens. I heard from a lot of churches that do this work that need upgrades. So that is $1 million program to do that. I see West County Meals on Wheels on, so let me just give an update on that. Appreciate all the Meals on Wheels. So in Contra Costa, there are two nonprofit Meals on Wheels. One is Meals on Wheels Diablo Valley, which had served Central and East County, and one is Meals on Wheels West County. And the county administers a procurement process with the federal and other dollars that we get for Meals on Wheels. And so the county held an open process last year. And under that process, the Meals on Wheels Central Contra Diablo, which previously served um, Central and East, received the award to serve the whole county. And the transition on that occurred February 1. It's the same amount of dollars that is currently allocated to West County, East, and Central. So the dollars are the same. And I did put a meeting together in December with West County and Diablo chapters of Meals on Wheels to get a seamless transition. And my understanding from our Employment and Human Services Department that that's happened February 1st. So
Nope.
same meals delivered. If you hear individual cases where there needs to be where someone's not getting a meal, let us know. We could check in, but we the contract we saw the data that got transferred, and so the same. I want to be clear, the same database, and this I've had meetings with the executive director of both, encouraging a seamless transition. What I care about is making sure every family that had a meal continues to get it. So if you see an anomaly, let us know. Was there a hand up? Did you have your
Yeah,
hand up?
John, there's, the word on the ground is a little different than that, and I will connect Ganesh Kamath to you, who every single one of his clients was thrown out of Meals on Wheels, and all his routes were canceled. So it was not seamless for a lot of regular volunteers and for their clients. But I'll connect him directly with your office.
Yeah, let us know. I mean, I have had several meetings to follow up to try to ensure, and if there's been someone who has missed, we want to ensure. I know that in the conversations I had that Meals on Wheels Diablo had offered to use any of the existing volunteers who are doing work with West County to continue to do it, and that was up to individual volunteers, as I understand it, whether they chose to continue to do that. I will continue to check to see. I think if anyone did not get a meal, I know there's a phone number for them to call. And
Ganesh,
so I have, yeah, we can check into that. I have talked to the folks at the county who sort of run our food security program and oversee this particular arrangement or contract as well. So any questions, we will look into it. There was some issues at first on transferring the database, but I understand that occurred. It was originally going to occur January 1, but I asked for it to be delayed till February 1, so to make sure it was a smooth transition. But if there's any issues, let us know and we will check in. Okay. So I covered food security again. Um, Melinda, I know you have you probably already have a modern kitchen, but we're looking at really trying to upgrade those, with this $1 million grant, those who are serving people through their churches.
Understood.
We also, the board unanimously, both the Republican member and the four Democratic members, put two measures on the June ballot. One is the extension of the urban limit line, which was passed 20 or 25 years ago. In fact, I was on the board when it passed. So for El Sobrante, it's the same line. So the area where development is allowed has not changed. It hasn't expanded the area. It still continues to protect the same open space areas in the El Sobrante Valley as the existing urban limit line. It expires at the end of the year, so it's on the June ballot to continue and extend the urban limit line. Um, the other measure that the board unanimously put on the ballot, which is something similar to what Santa Clara did in last November and what Los Angeles is planning to do as well in June, is a 5-year temporary 5/8 cent sales tax that would raise about $150 million a year to offset the federal cuts to food assistance and health and human services. So let me put a perspective. Contra Costa County directly provides medical care to 260,000 Contra Costa residents who are Medi-Cal eligible. Kaiser provides Medi-Cal healthcare to Medi-Cal eligible residents to about 60,000. So there's 320,000 residents in Contra Costa out of 1.1 million who have Medi-Cal. Given the cutbacks and the new requirements, we have estimated that our health system would lose eventually, have cuts of $300 million. So what we're doing, three things. We are continuing on the scale of the state and national county associations to advocate in a new administration for reversal of those federal policies. As you know, those cuts help fund income tax decreases for the wealthiest Americans. And the cut in food assistance, certain social services, and mostly healthcare would have severe impacts. So we're making our own cuts. We just made millions of dollars in some cuts in healthcare. Um, our health department has estimated that between 30 and 70,000 people could lose their Medi-Cal health care. What we want to do is one of two things: have additional eligibility staff in our Employment and Human Services Department to work to keep people enrolled because the federal and state government pay for that. And the people that fall off would then go into the county's locally funded basic health care. Major health systems like John Muir and Kaiser expect to be impacted. I've spoken to them. What does it mean when 50,000 people lose health care in the county? A lot of them out here in West County. It means more of them are not getting their health care through their doctor, but they're delaying their care and going to the emergency room, which means emergency rooms have longer waiting time for all of us, have potentially increased ambulance response times. Um, it's a bad situation. In addition to people getting sicker, it costs the healthcare system more to treat somebody in an emergency room than in their doctor's office. And this is happening across the country, and obviously in many counties in all counties in California, from rural, suburban to urban. And so as we continue to make cuts, advocate for changes, the 150 million would work to minimize the impact and allow us to try to keep more people in healthcare and to have to pay to provide healthcare under our state obligations. Um, the other thing we will do is under the food assistance is if they fall off CalFresh. A lot of this is about keeping people enrolled and eligible. The federal government has placed requirements such as requiring people to be enrolled every 6 months instead of every year, but have not provided funding to basically increase the staffing, double the workload. So those are some of the things we're looking at. We want to keep people enrolled. What is the cost of a 5/8 cent sales tax for 5 years? In looking at data, the average for a median household in Contra Costa, it would cost an individual about $10 more per month. For someone who may be a fixed income senior who spends a lot less than somebody who is average income, maybe more like $5 or less per month. Obviously, the sales tax does not cover food or medicines. Um, the seniors will be the hardest hit. So if we didn't have funding to provide health care and help with food assistance, believe me, seniors would pay a lot more than $5 in health care and food cost. I've heard from individuals who have said, gee, seniors can't afford $5 a month. Well, they can't afford the alternative, which is to have to pay for some health care and medical services and pay more for food because they've fallen off of CalFresh eligibility. That's why the Republican member of our board as well voted to put this temporary measure on the ballot because she understood the impact. So it was a bipartisan move from conservative members to moderate to more progressive members because I think we've all seen what this would do. Um, so that I think I'm willing to take questions on any of these items. So a lot to report, some grant opportunities, but also potentially this new 5-year tax. We would need a majority vote. We did some polling a number of months ago that showed about 57% support. Measure X passed in the middle of the pandemic with about 59%. So we're seeing more counties do this to try to avoid the negative consequences of these of the Trump cuts.
So just to start off, before we go to questions from the board, I sit on the Advisory Council on Aging, and we had our general meeting last month, and a lot of discussion was devoted to this sales tax measure, and we were all urged to contact our supervisors to, really push them to support getting this measure on the ballot. So as opposed to pushing you, I'm just thanking you and the other supervisors for unanimously passing this, to go on the ballot, and it'll make a huge difference to all of us. And then I do have one question, which is, as you point out, a small part of El Sobrante is in the eligible zone.
Yeah.
For that grant opportunity. And I guess, one of the potential granting, organizations that might apply, for example, might be the Chamber of Commerce, which is at the intersection of San Pablo Dam and Hillcrest. And I couldn't tell from the maps if that's inside the zone or not.
Yeah, I mean, and their criteria is different than the criteria, for our community impact grants, Tom. I can try to pull up the general parts. Yeah, I mean, there is a part of unincorporated El Sobrante that is within the area. So, how that would work, you'd have to show that it's benefiting residents in some way dealing with health. So let me just pull up. It's the oops, why is my huh, trying to open it up. Oh well, it's not opening here. I have let me pull up my email. I sent out an email. It deals with, how we're continuing to provide economic development and opportunity to an area in which, as you know, some refineries have closed. The refinery in Benicia has announced it's closing. The refinery in Rodeo and Martinez have transitioned from processing crude to processing renewable fuels. So that there's a transition happening. Um, and What I would suggest is attending the uh, webinar that the Air District's going to do coming up soon. Let me see if I can find that. And, Ronnie can send that out to all of you where questions can be asked of Air District staff. This money is a new policy I helped advocate, which is to say that the fines and penalties we collect should be spent in the community that basically suffered the harm. So if fines and penalties collected from Chevron for violation should be spent in the surrounding community. So this is a new policy. And the other major area, frankly, where fines were collected is in Benicia. I will look up here. Yeah, I can't open this right now. For some reason, the internet's not allowing me to open this up. But we can get you the date if I get it before the end of the meeting of when the webinar is, where a lot of these questions can be answered, Tom.
Well, thank you very much, John. And we'll start off with questions.
I think you're still sharing, that may be an issue too, John. I think you're still sharing screen.
Let me turn off the share.
So we'll start off with questions from the council and George.
I'm just pointing because Jed has a question, so.
Oh, okay, Jed.
What is the nature of this anomaly?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
So Jed has a question. Jed Hart has a question.
Yes, Jed.
Yeah, how are you doing, Supervisor?
Good.
This isn't relating to what you just presented on, but this past week, council member Sohi Labana from Richmond, she sent out her newsletter that the big play structure at Cheese Park is going to have to be demolished for safety reasons. Which got me thinking, are we still talking with the car wash about a park potentially in El Sobrante proper?
We are. The problem is, I've had a number of meetings with them where we agreed to a general idea that we would be open to changing the general plan to allow them to expand their car wash area, which they would not otherwise be allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Build housing on the site, which is what that site is zoned for, and that we had to show the state that we were allowing more housing.
Yeah.
And then in response, as part of that, they would agree to transfer to the county a defined back area of that parcel for a park, and then we would work to develop funding. In a way, they're required to provide some funding for parks as part of any housing. So part of providing the land would meet that requirement, but we still would have to come up with funding to build a park. The problem is they seem to be more focused on the car wash and less about the housing. I'm not sure they're experienced housing developers. So they have not submitted a complete application. We've had several meetings. We'll probably have another meeting. So it really depends. They need to have professionals working with them. We have tried to give them flexibility, but they have yet to file a complete application, and we'll be meeting again sometime soon to talk about this. They've agreed to all this in concept, but until they actually move forward with an application, because we'd be doing a lot of, I mean, we're prepared to, one of the issues, for example, is they want to go above the maximum height allowed. And we'll say, well, we're open to hearing from the community on that. They said, we can't build this unless we have, an extra floor. We need to get more variances. And we said, fine, present what your application is. So that hasn't happened yet.
Okay, excellent. That makes sense because yeah, it just seemed to be becoming more and more pressing that we,
Yeah.
as George as well, we do not have a park in El Sobrante proper.
Right. Well, I mean, you have a mini park at the library, right? There's
Yeah.
that playground area in the back. There's the reading garden or I should say the reading garden, not a playground in the back area. That's more of a mini park, right? So that we put about $1 million over time to develop that. So that's the closest you have, right?
Community Grove here, which is a nice park.
So other questions from the council?
Yeah. John, as you know, I'm a volunteer for Meals on Wheels. I do it on Wednesdays today. And I was wondering about this changeover. And I contacted EHSD and they explained that I'm still not quite following. West County and Diallo were two separate entities. And yet they were, which to me means they had separate contracts
Right.
with the county. And yet this is like a consolidation, but EHSD doesn't think it's a consolidation. So
Here's what happened. When the funding comes through, they're required under the law to do, right, competitive bidding. So Meals on Wheels, the first time they went out, Meals on Wheels West County did not submit a bid, only Meals on Wheels Diablo did.
right.
So after discussion, and I think I talked to the new executive director of Meals on Wheels West County. So the county then, in respect to Meals on Wheels West County, went out, republicized the RFP and went out again. Both Meals on Wheels West County bid for the West County portion of the county only, and Meals on Wheels Diablo put in a proposal for the whole county. And under whatever the evaluation criteria was which I think include some seniors or community folks, the award was given to Meals on Wheels Diablo. So they now have the responsibility with that funding to serve not just the area they previously served, but West County with the money that West County is allocated. So it's not a consolidation of the two organizations, because I understand Meals on Wheels West County wants to continue to exist and do work. But for this contract and this funding, there's one entity now doing the whole county.
What Melinda said, what I experienced, it wasn't as dramatic as someone getting kicked out, but it wasn't seamless either. So it's a work in progress.
Yeah. I'll check in. We want to ensure that every single person, right, who is entitled to receive meals either already or is entitled and can enroll, that that happened. And I understand that's why it was delayed from a January 1 implementation to a February 1.
You want to talk at all about Grand Jury Appreciation Month?
Oh yeah, thank you for being there. In fact, yes, you and your colleagues from the grand jury came to the board this week. We appreciate the work. I always enjoy talking to the grand jury and the orientation. And as you know, we just sent out an e-blast today to encourage more people in West County to apply for the civil grand jury. Right, the role is it does reports about efficiencies and issues in county government, city government, special districts, school districts, water boards, all of that. So yes, we just sent out. You probably saw. So encourage folks in El Sobrante who want to apply. The applications are due, I think, in a few weeks, and the court makes it. They're selected by the court, not by the county.
There's 19 people, so the only one on West County, so.
Mickey had a question.
Yeah, are you the only one this year? 'Cause in the past, there have been more than one. We need more West County people.
Exactly.
Mickey?
Although it looks like it's might be on the agenda later on.
What's on the agenda?
The noise ordinance,
It's on the agenda.
are you gonna speak to it, or is that something?
I don't, I think, I know that the county is going through the process of amending or adding and strengthening a noise ordinance. I didn't get the update from Department of Conservation Development. I know that they're moving forward with something that came out of the committee that will come to the board.
Ronnie,
get
you'll be
it
able,
here?
will you be able to speak to that?
It's essentially the same thing.
Okay.
Well,
I think maybe the best thing, I don't know, is when the draft whenever the final whenever it's in writing to go to the planning commission, that we should make a presentation. I'm not sure that giving monthly presentations until we get everything with the direction and then present it. I'll find out when that will be. I don't want to talk incomplete because I knew what the idea was, but we've been dealing with a lot, so I don't have the details of that in front of me. But we can check when it'll be ready to have a presentation.
Christine, did you have a?
Yeah, hi, John, this is Chris, Matthias.
Yeah.
I wanted to, ask you about the pace of the negotiations with, back to the car wash and the apartment building. What's the pace of those negotiations? It sounds.
Not much. I mean, look, there's not, I don't want to be critical, but I'm not sure they're all together. I don't know what their funding is. Ultimately, it is up to the applicant to put an application into the county. I've had a number of meetings I arrange between planning staff and their team. There's a new person we talked to. Yeah, I mean, they they need to spend some money on their professionals to put something together that we could then have another meeting. I think we've given them a lot of advice about what to do, but ultimately we don't develop these applications. The applicant develops it. And there's the conceptual agreement is that, look, if we have a project that the community supports, that we can approve, that extends your car wash, which you are not legally entitled to do today under the general plan and the zoning, but we're willing to consider that. Plus, you have to build housing on that site. And then they would then transfer the back part of that property to the county, and then we would continue to develop funding for that site. So, but ultimately, we can't force them to apply. They may have a different perspective. I can tell you that I've had several meetings with several different stakeholders of that, and I'm open to hearing something. They've asked things like, well, we may need to go higher. I said, well, we may need some variances. And we said, we'll consider all of those things. I can't promise you we're going to approve stuff. Land use approvals are a public process with public input, and ultimately a process that goes through the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. So, but we need something firm to consider. I used to be a land use lawyer, and I've made land use decisions in the county for 28 years. I can tell you they're not experienced in developing housing. They probably need to work with a housing developer. They're used to running car washes. And that is their priority. But they also know that there's a housing opportunity. They thought when they bought the property that they could just expand their car wash. So they had wrong information. The zoning had changed where it only allowed housing on that site, and a park could be fine. So anyway, we'll reach out with them. The county can't go to a developer and say, please submit your application 10 times. I mean, I've had conversations, and I think we've said we're open to all of these different things, which include variances. I can't promise that we're going to allow you an extra story to build more units. We need community input on that. It'd be illegal for me to say that. So, you know,
Just, the question of how can the community help you?
I don't think I appreciate, I will let you know what I think you can help once they have an application and we start having hearings. You know, this is really in their court. And this
Okay.
reminds me, I'll give them a call. I've been dealing with a lot of issues and I'll call them again and say and get a meeting together. Um, you know, we had some meetings last year. And if I think the community can be helpful, I'll let you know. I appreciate that. At this point, it's really internal to them.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Supervisor Joya?
Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward one. My name is Richard Camp. The question is on the Bay Area Air Quality Management District Community Fund. Is this basically require a nonprofit application?
No, that one is, I think, has for-profit eligibility as well. I think, and if you Google John Joya, my website will show up. On my homepage, you'll see the announcement about the $1 million grants, and then below that, you'll see our e-blast about the 36 million. And what I would do is I don't know why I'm trying to click on it so I can read it. I'm going to my website and when I click on that, it just says Safari can't open the page. So I don't know. Let me see if I can find it a different way. It's a much more complicated process. There are very large grants available. Um, let's see here. I'm just clicking on it. February 19th is a grant information session at 6 p.m. So I would suggest that um, you would tune into that. And in the meantime, on the link, it does have the application is open. There's session on the 19th. The application isn't due until May 29th, so there's a lot of time here. And if I look at this, I'll just read you what it says since I was able to open it up here a little bit, I think. Um, but again, you know, you could get this information here, Community Investments Office. I don't know why it's just not. Anyway, why don't you look at that? And if you have questions, we'll refer you, but this session on the 19th is the best thing to go to.
Basics. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So are there any further questions either in the room or online for Supervisor Joya? So in that case, thank you so much for everything you do. And we really appreciate your giving us the county presentation. Thank you so much.
And I'll stay on just to hear Public Works and the resident presentations on Pebble Drive.
So in that case, it doesn't look like we have the sheriff or highway patrol here, but we do have Michelle Reinhardt from the Fire Protection District. Michelle?
Hello, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Hear you fine. Thank you.
Great. Hi, Chair. Hi, Board. Hello, members of the public. Thank you for joining us this evening. So I have a couple of things that just a reminder from our last meetings, just to get the word out, since we have what appears to be somewhat of a new attendance group here in the room tonight. So our new fire district website, a refreshed website, was launched in December 2025, providing easier navigation to the information and tools for the public. In addition, the new website is fully compliant with all applicable ADA regulations and requirements. So same great address, www.cccfpd.org. Zone Zero update. Next state regulatory committee meetings were previously reported as resuming in March. We're hearing further postponement until April. Additional homeowner resources will be placed into the chat and always provided to Ronnie for distribution. Regarding the Bay Repair Grant, we are aware of the grant and we're considering the best path forward there. I appreciate Supervisor Joya covering it and all of the details he provided. So again, we're aware and we're considering the best path forward for from a fire perspective. I'm getting some questions from the public about EV fires, and I just want to share my screen really quick so you have a point of reference. Can you see that okay, Ronnie?
Yep.
So with an increase in the EV fires occurring throughout our district, we evaluated the specialized tools to assist us in enhancing our operational equipment to improve firefighter safety and our response capabilities. We face the consistent challenge of EV fires and the inability to penetrate that sealed battery enclosure to extinguish the fire, which results in, thousands of gallons being put onto a fire and increased runoff and such. So 2 cold cut Cobra systems are planned for purchase with a total cost of $200,000, which will be used as specialized EV and lithium ion battery suppression. What this tool does is and you'll see there, it's a suppression tool. It penetrates the sealed battery enclosure and delivers a very high pressure water mist combined with an abrasive aggregate to address the dramatic overheating and burning of battery cells, enabling our firefighters to interrupt that thermal runaway. That's where the battery cannot be extinguished with our normal pressure fire hoses on our rigs. So we're going to limit that hazardous vapor release. In speaking about the grant opportunity, right? This is one way that we're addressing that ahead of any grant application. This capability is essential for us not only to manage EV fires, but the battery energy storage system incidents and other high energy lithium ion hazards that, again, our conventional host streams just cannot effectively control. So those are the immediate questions that I had from leading up to this meeting. Thank you for allowing me to talk a little bit about topics that we've presented in the past. But again, considering the attendance that you have tonight, I just wanted to put it out there that if people need more information, they can go to our newly released and refreshed website. And with that, I'm ready for your questions.
Any questions from the council?
Hey, Michelle, it's George Cleveland. How are you?
Hi, how are you, Board Member Cleveland?
So I understand that Chief Rochard is retiring very soon. So what's the process? What is the process for his replacement? And you can have someone as an interim, and how long do you think this will take?
Absolutely. So his last day is the end of March. And the CAO's office is working through the recruitment process. It'll be an open recruitment. And so our county partners will be a part of that process in finding a new leader. We do have staff ready to support the many things that Chief Burchard has done. And I'm sorry to see him go, but a well-deserved retirement. So yes, thank you for the question.
Question, council.
I'm sorry, Michelle, I'm confused on one of the EV items. Do you actually have are you going to purchase the EV fire suppression, or is that contingent upon a grant?
No, thank you for that question, and I'm sorry that I wasn't clear. So the total cost is $200,000 for those 2 cold cut Cobra systems, and those will be paid for through existing funds, not through grant funds. But again, it's showing you the effort that we're putting forth, not waiting for grant opportunities when we see the need, especially when we deal with EV fires. The risk to the public, the runoff, the hazardous release. We're really working to protect the public at every step of our suppression infrastructure.
Yes, hi, Michelle. This is Chris Conrad. I just read an article in the paper not long ago about sonic fire suppression equipment. So I don't understand how sound can suppress fire, but I do understand that it uses no water and that it eliminates all the water damage it's also caused. Is this something the county is looking at in any way?
So in this point, I'm not speaking for the district. I'm speaking for the personal research that I've done. That sound effort is basically on a smaller fire. When we're dealing with, I think a lot of people look at sound as a way to battle urban conflagration and the the fire and the intensity is far greater than what I understand the sound waves have the ability to suppress.
Any further questions for Michelle? Nikki?
Well, it's not really a question for Michelle, but I'd like to call on Councilwoman Sohaila Bana, who has a comment about our fire safety and an evacuation drill that's been planned for our area.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. So tonight I'm here as the chair of West Contra Costa Fire City Council. In collaboration with the city of Richmond, we are conducting a huge evacuation drill all over 94803 zip code area. We have invited Confire, they are joining us. We have invited other agencies like East Bay Regional Parks, East Bay Mud, because we would like to know what happened in emergency. It's very important that you participate. I'll come again at the next meeting and let you know how to participate and everything. Just wanted to give you a heads up, and if anybody wants to volunteer, please let me know. We need all the help we can get in educating your neighbors. I know you'll participate, but unless people register for the drill, they will not receive the community warning system notification. And the more people participate, the more realistic it is. Talking about civil grand jury, actually, last evacuation drills we did, we realized there was a problem with it. And we kept telling them we didn't get the results that we expected, so I wrote to civil grand jury. Fortunately, they did a report on it, and because of that, there were some major changes in community warning system, and now it's a golden opportunity to see how it works. That's why your participation is very important.
And it's May 23rd.
It's on May 23rd. Thank you very much.
Over and over and over again, May 23rd.
It's a Saturday, May 23rd. It's starting at 9 a.m. So we'll help you learn about learning about your evacuation zone, to decipher the message you receive from committee, download the app, watch duty, and everything is step by step. So let's just stay in touch. And if you're not on my mailing list, please give me your email address because you want to learn about the evacuation drill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Bana, and also President of the West Contra Costa Fire Safe Council. We are working on messaging for future MAC meetings to increase engagement for that evacuation drill. And again, we're looking at May, so we have March and April to get the word out. So it's very timely in people's minds. But thank you so much for adding that information to tonight's meeting. Richard Diaz from the Office of Emergency Services in the City of Richmond is heading that effort. So the communication is established between his office and Confire.
I have a question about that. What level of participation do you expect considering that's the Saturday and holiday weekend?
I didn't pick the date, Richard Diaz did.
Okay, just let me know that's Saturday and holiday weekend, and I would love to participate in that drill, but I won't be able to because I will be up at 12 o'clock. So. Okay. So I'm just saying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe you can just educate your neighbors.
Well,
Are there further questions for either Councilmember Bana or for Michelle Reinhardt? So if there are no further questions, thank you as always, Michelle, for your presentations. Always a lot of really interesting detail, and thank you so much, Councilmember Bana, for coming in and speaking to us about FireWise and the exercise.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Board. And Ms. Bono will be in contact. I know I owe you a call.
Thank you.
So we're moving to our next agenda item, which is a couple of presentations and a discussion regarding traffic issues and traffic safety issues on Pebble Drive. How many of our audience here are Pebble Drive neighbors? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for coming in. And just as a reminder, we're always here, so feel free to come in second Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. and be part of our discussions. So we're going to start this off with a presentation by Public Works, and then following the presentation by Public Works, we'll have a presentation by Cynthia Ainsworth. And what we're going to do is, rather than have questions after each presentation, we'll have general questions and a discussion after this pair of presentations are completed. And that way we can have a cohesive discussion. So we'll start off with the Public Works Department and their presentation.
Usually over there.
Okay, over there.
Yeah.
Facing the.
Yeah, we got you.
It's good. Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Ronnie.
Over there.
Hey, again, thank you. I'm Monique Sand, I'm a senior traffic engineer for Public Works.
Well,
and some of you, of course, know me and are probably not happy to see me again.
no, we're always happy.
You're always happy to see
Can you
me.
tell significance?
Monique.
Monish.
Thank you. And I've been on some drives with some of you. Is that correct?
With me and Nikki.
Yes. And Ronnie's aware of some of those interactions.
Yeah, Ronnie was along for the ride as well.
Ronnie was, yeah. No, and those are great. You know, we identified some issues that we need to deal with. I'm pretty.
And Pebble was on the list.
And Pebbles.
So on the list.
So with that, I wanted to just start in. So as you can imagine, over the years, let me give you the broad brush. Public Works traffic, we oversee almost 700 miles. It's spread throughout the county, east to west, north to south. So out of those, you can imagine a lot of those are residential roads. A lot of those are residential, because we are basically a suburban community. Out of that, I don't think a week goes by where we don't hear about people talking about speeding. Okay. And so it's not unusual. Okay, it's not unusual. And so the way we have to address that is we have to look at the data. And that's kind of where I'm here, kind of to present some of the data we've collected over time. To try to rank what roads really need some interventions, and some that maybe there's different, less soft, not necessarily engineered solutions, but maybe some enforcement or education, or trying to do some other soft things to get those roads safe. So with that, I'll just jump into Pebble Drive. Starting it off with, it is classified as a local road. Now, what that means is we can set the speed limit at 25 miles. So the posted speed limit on Pebble Drive, and it's posted at the north end and south end, is 25 miles per hour. Now, you could say, well, what's the power of being a local road? What does that mean? What that means is you're not identified as a collector roadway or an arterial. If you were identified as a collector arterial, chances are we would have to raise the speed limit. So it's a good thing that you're a local road. So, and I'll explain that a little bit better later. Now, with that, there's 2 advisory speed limit pavement markings at the north and south end, which are 15 mile and 20 mile per hour pavement. And what those are warning speed limits for drivers that they're approaching curves. Now, with that, the advisory speed limits, if you exceed those advisory speed limits, you can't necessarily get pulled over because they're a warning. Now, the white signs with black lettering, those are regulatory. If you exceed speed limit, that's when you can get pulled over. Average daily volume on this roadway is approximately 2,600 vehicles a day. Wow. That's a lot, but
Many.
But I'll get into a comparison soon. Now let's get into collision history. So that's some of the kind of the simple stuff. Now we're getting into collision history. Let's look at the actual collision history. So over a period starting from January 2020 to December of 2025, so a good 5 year, the last 5 years in essence. This is what we have. We have a total of 9 total reported collisions. Out of those, 2 of the reported collisions identify speeding as the primary collision factor. Okay. We have 3 that were DUIs, and we have 4 that were other. Now, other means unsafe turning movement, parked cars, crashing into parked cars, things like that, unsafe passing, or medical conditions. Sometimes. That's kind of where we go with the collisions. Now I'm going to get into what we've been, some of our efforts over time. In August of 2021, we installed the curb warning signs you have at both ends. Advanced curb warning signs were installed. And then since we installed those in 2021, there have not been any collisions at those curves. So something's helping. February 2024, we did a full traffic investigation, I think based on a request from a resident. And in that review, we did daytime and nighttime site visits, collision history review, traffic data collection. The traffic data collection revealed the southbound 85th percentile, roughly 30 to 31 miles per hour. Northbound 85th percentile, 32 miles per hour. Certainly not 25. And then, and also for comparison, you could say, well, that was 2024. You know, maybe it's become way worse or it's better. We also collected similar data in February of 2018, which showed similar volumes. So the volumes haven't changed much. And the 85th percentile speeds back then were actually I won't say much, were higher. Measured at 36 miles per hour southbound and 35 miles per hour northbound. So, and as a part of our investigation, our traffic safety investigator did make a speed enforcement request of Sergeant Pruitt and Officer Taylor at the California CHP office. And by the way, in the county, speed enforcement is not done by the sheriff, it's done by the CHP. So most recently, Ms. Ainsworth, I believe, contacted us, and so I think it was a 2-part initial request at least, was to install potentially speed humps and also to potentially restrict trucks on them. So the county policy is, and it's actually not just a county policy, pretty much throughout the industry, shall we say, if a roadway exceeds 2,000 vehicles, typically speed humps are not recommended. And the other part of our county policy is if the roadway exceeds 8%, which a good majority of pedal drive does, typically speed humps are also not recommended. So, and in terms of truck restrictions, so traffic data indicates that approximately 3% of the daily trips consist of large trucks. And so based on, a pretty small amount of traffic, it would not be recommended for restriction. Now, here's some of the good news coming down the line, and that's Pebble Drive has been selected by our advanced planning section in transportation among 17 locations throughout the county to install solar powered speed feedback signs or curb warning signs at the two curbs. So these would be solar powered and they would register for people who are exceeding that speed limit. It does cut off after a certain speed because unfortunately when some people see the speed limit signs, they try to beat it. They try to see how high it goes. So we make sure to cut it off. So yeah, there's all kinds of people. And so again, another speed enforcement request has been made on Pebble Drive. And residents can also contact CHP Martina's office. So we've got that number. And so that's kind of putting that into a nutshell. But this is actually pretty important too. So La Paloma Road, which has similar roadway course characteristics as Pebble. And we've heard from La Paloma folks as well. There may be some here. Includes, this comparable roads, steep grades. That carries approximately 5,000 vehicles a day.
Wow.
And also that has not met any of the criteria for a speed hump installation. And also in 1977, La Paloma got a 7-ton weight restriction through the Board of Supervisors. And anecdotally, at least we know, we haven't heard of a lot of enforcement of that weight trucks. Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of enforcement. Even when roads get road ton limits, it's very difficult to actually get enforcement of those limits. With that, I'll let Cynthia.
I'll let you do that. I'll just say next slide. Is that okay?
Are you going to have the slides available on Zoom oh, good. For people watching on Zoom? Good. Okay, there we are.
Okay, so hello everybody, and thank you to the council for giving me the opportunity to come and speak. I'm Cynthia Ainsworth, new resident of Pebble Drive. And so I just wanted to share with you some of the research that I've done and things that I have found. And Ronnie's been most helpful in supplying me with information about Pebble Drive. And so, yeah, ready to show. Before we can understand though the challenges that we face today, we need to take a step back. Next, first slide. So a little history of Pebble Drive. Why is this history important? Because it's important to know why and how Pebble Drive was designed. And it was designed to function in a certain way. So this is an aerial view of Sobrante. The red arrow is La Paloma. And Santa Rita Acres, which is the housing development that Pebble Drive is in, it has no housing and no Pebble Drive. It's just a twinkle in some developer's eye at that point in time. APN, you can see, goes right below the circle. And then San Pablo Dam Road bisects the map in the lower half. El Sobrante Elementary is up on Manor Drive. So this is what it looked like in 1950. Next slide. So quite a bit of change happened in a 9-year period. Yep. There is the aerial view of El Sobrante. The red arrow is still La Paloma, and the blue arrow is Pebble Drive with Santa Rita Acres development. The yellow star, you can see it right there, that's going to be the new library. Ground breaks on that early 1960s, and this library is built in 1961. The red circle is De Anza High School, And the purple circle is the new Murphy Elementary school. El Sobrante is growing, as you can see. There were new businesses and housing, schools, libraries. I read about new churches that were being built. There were 6 large grocery stores that were in operation in the early 1960s. So Pebble Drive was designed for neighborhood families to take children to school, shop at local markets, attend church, visit the library, to service local area traffic. It was not intended to function as a commuter corridor. Next slide, thank you. So here's the current data. I was told that this study was done in early 2025, but Monish indicated that possibly those dates are a little bit off, but close around there. This is how the road is being used today. 2,600 cars travel Pebble Drive daily. And as Monish pointed out, the 85th percentile speeds are between 30 and 32, even though the posted speeds are 20 at flatter areas and 15. Yet we know for people who actually live on Pebble that they go much faster, 40 to 45 certain times. 3% of vehicles are oversized. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Pebble Drive is not classified as an arterial road. We'll talk about that in just a minute. The county did install advanced curve warning signs in both directions near the curve south of Pebble Court. Foliage is covering one sign and drivers still ignore the other side. As you can see here, they collided with the sign and knocked it over. So that tells you right there. So and I'm not quite sure what good it is doing at this point in time. So many ignore the signs and pass cars both on the curve and on the straightaway. Next slide. Pebble Drive is not an arterial road. This is from the San Pablo Dam Road feasibility study in 2023. The county defined what a arterial road is. Arterial roadways move high volume of traffic to and from freeways. Their traffic function is of regional, countywide, and intercity importance for safe and efficient movement of motorists and bicyclists rather than servicing local area traffic. And this is the map that's part of the study. And you can see here San Pablo Dam Road is an arterial road and access to 80 is on El Portal. So drivers, so here's the conflict. How does the county take a road that was designed in the mid-1950s to service local area traffic and make it safe for the current demographics? Drivers in 1959 were doing business in the community. Drivers today are commuters with the goal to speed through as quickly as possible. And this is not a new problem. Many of my neighbors who are here tonight have been working towards a solution with the county for over a decade. And as the demographics of El Sobrante continue to change, the problem will not resolve itself, but will continue to get worse. And our goal is to create a solution before fatality occurs. Next slide. Here is my 4-point plan to restore safety to Pebble Drive. In your agenda, it says a 5-point plan. I took my 5 points and vetted it with neighbors, and there was 1 point that was not viable, so we took that. And so it is now a 4-point plan. First one being speed bumps. So up and down Pebble are posts. They're called safety bollards, designed to keep an out-of-control vehicle from crashing into a bedroom or kitchen. Now, note that along Pebble Drive, most of the homes either have bedrooms right on the road or they have a kitchen, living room right on the road, as opposed to like a garage being what a car would hit first, either bedrooms or living room kitchens. Here's an example of a vehicle that was going downhill at a fast speed on a rainy day, lost control and spun around out of control and landed in my neighbor's front yard. Installing speed bumps would slow down traffic, but I understand there are issues with speed bumps and the steep incline of Pebble Drive. So I researched other municipalities as to the limit for the vertical grade for a speed hump installation. And as Monique said, most concur that 8% is with safe limits, so that it can't have higher than an 8% vertical grade. I took my phone and went all the way down Pebble from the beginning to the end, and I identified 2 spots on Pebble Drive that are under 8% vertical grade. One is at the top and one is at the bottom. There's also concern about fire trucks having access to the road. Well, gaps can be provided that are the width of the fire truck wheelbase so that emergency vehicles can traverse the humps with minimal impact. This is right outside Castro Valley Adult School. I took this picture when I was there. And so here we have our first map of Pebble Drive. And my suggestion is that we put a speed bump at the top and one at the bottom. When cars, I can see the look in their eyes when cars come spinning around those corners, either going down or coming up, they take those corners fast. The speed bump is right there, right before where there's going to be an intersection of other cars coming through. It will slow people down. So this is the first point, is speed bumps on Pebble Drive. I realized that there was some other data points that came up about the number of cars that have to traverse the road before, and we're over that amount, but that's something that maybe we can talk about. Number 2, crosswalks. I want to tell you a little story. This is just right outside where my house is. Behind me are blind curves. You cannot see when a car is coming. A little bit farther down here is the intersection of White Sands Place and Court. There's a father crossing the street and he had his child in his arm. He looks up the street, he can't see any cars coming. He can't, it's a blind curve. So he starts walking across the street. At that point, somebody starts coming down the road, exceeding the speed limit, and the father had to run to get across the street. The person now is flying down, and they did see the man and braked, but it was like my heart stopped when I saw that happening. If the father had tripped, trying to run across the street, if it had been a senior with a cane, if it had been somebody with a stroller, if the person in the car had been on their phone, if they were trying to find a radio station, something could have happened. So I did a little more research, and in the Contra Costa countywide bicycle and pedestrian plan from 2018, the county has made a goal of increased walking and bicycling. And I put in bold there from this report, numerous studies and research in a variety of communities have demonstrated the benefits of creating an environment where walking and bicycling are safe, comfortable, and convenient. So the county has made a commitment to provide safe walking access to pedestrians, and Pebble Drive is not conducive to safe walking. From the San Pablo Dam Road feasibility study, the long-term goal is to encourage a shift in trip modes by Contra Costa County residents and visitors from motor vehicles to active modes, such as walking and biking, to create a more sustainable community and reduce greenhouse emissions. So the county has made safe walking a priority in both the Contra Costa Countywide Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan and the San Pablo Dam Road Study. And so to support this goal, I would like to reclaim our street as a residential neighborhood, as opposed to a commuter corridor, to encourage pedestrian traffic. And to encourage this pedestrian traffic and create a safer environment, install crosswalks to be added at Pebble Court, Whiteside Court and White Sands Place intersection, and Driftwood Court, including curb ramps to be compliant with ADA standards and lighted pedestrian signs. And here are some examples of a lighted pedestrian sign, a crosswalk that's extremely obvious, and slow, which would be on the road both before and after, so that no matter which direction you're going, you can see it. And now my next map, we have our point number 2, our 4-way intersection crosswalk with the lighted sign, and then at the crosswalks at Pebble Court and at Driftwood Court. Weight restrictions. Yeah. So, Monish did talk about La Paloma, Road having a weight restriction. Large trucks have a difficulty slowing their momentum as they come down the road. Conversely, they need to speed up to gain the momentum, to get up the steep incline, and then with this increased speed, they need to navigate tight corners, and it would be a colossal accident if they lost control. In addition, many construction trucks are pulling heavy equipment. Just the other day, a large truck came through with concrete pavers and then pulling, and a forklift behind it. We see that all the time. If there was a collision and equipment came loose and fell off the truck of some sort or another, lives would be in danger. As I said, most houses on Pebble either have bedrooms or living rooms and eating areas adjacent to the road. Safety bollards would not stop a heavy truck in motion. And if this scenario of having a heavy piece of equipment being towed, have it be ejected off the end of the truck, that seems improbable. Just in December, there was a car on 580, a tow truck that was towing a car. There was a collision. The car flew off the tow truck and landed on the BART tracks. That was over in Castro Valley. So this is something that's very probable. So the 3% data point that seemed kind of impressive is actually irrelevant. It doesn't matter how many trucks are on that road. They do not belong in those steep, windy curves, the blind curves. And so, next picture is my map. Now has a weight limit at the beginning and the end. Point 4, traffic calming road striping. And this is something that's pretty cool. Here I watched the October 8th recording of Fernando Valdez, who was with the county engineers. He was talking about a report of the San Pablo Dam Road. He said between El Portal and Tri Lane, the travel lane, they narrowed them from 12 feet to 11 feet because study shows people slow down when the lane is narrow. And from the Contra Costa Countywide Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan, there was a whole section on traffic calming. This is a lovely little thought. The severity of crashes increases substantially with vehicle speed. That kind of makes sense. Roughly 9 in 10 people walking will survive a crash of a vehicle traveling 20 miles per hour, but only 1 in 10 will survive a crash of a vehicle traveling 40 miles per hour. They give some suggestions about ways to slow people down, and I've highlighted it. Visual street narrowing techniques. And here's an example of the picture on the side. You can see how they've painted this like curve right at the curve. So it gives the impact or the visual look of that the road is a little bit more narrow, but actually it's not. I found some more examples. Here was a research that was done. It says another traffic calming option is to provide striped speed humps across the roadway. These can be effective where normal speed humps cannot be implemented, such as a hilly area or where grades exceed 8%. And here, by narrowing perceived lane widths, striping can encourage slower driving speeds. And there were a lot of really fun and exciting examples of colorful ways of creating these techniques. And the next one here, it shows this is a school. I'm not suggesting you would do this, but I thought there was some cool ideas. This is a school that created this traffic calming. Here's another example of traffic calming. I thought we could do a really cool kind of community event where we paint some cool things on the road. And this and it's just our drive. It could be for a lot of different roads, within El Sobrante. So my new map now has where it's the green. Those are the really tight curves. We'll do some traffic calming there. And then before that big intersection, we'll put a striped road hump painted on the road. So we've heard a lot of data. We heard a lot of data from Monish, and he said that's what the county uses to make decisions. I understand completely, but there's data that's missing. What information is not reflected in the survey that was completed for Pebble Drive? I would like to offer that the lived experiences of residents on Pebble Drive tell a different story than the survey that was completed by the county. Almost every day, I have a near collision. Vehicles racing behind me, honking horns, flashing lights, and more often than not, passing me on blind curves. It just happened the other day. I'm coming in my driveway, start down the road. Someone's upset that I'm going 20 miles an hour, speeds past me, probably going 35 on the blind curve. If someone were coming up the road at that point in time, it would be a head-on collision. Residents need to be hyper aware of aggressive driving so that while accident rates may have lessened, that was a very small number, they don't take into account the accidents that are narrowly avoided because of our diligence. At some point, though, will that be enough, or will a fatality occur despite our diligence? Thank you.
I just want to start off, thank you, Monish, for coming to represent the Public Works, and thank you so much, Cynthia. That was a really detailed and interesting and compelling presentation. And it's like what I really appreciate about what you did is it wasn't, it wasn't a complaint. I mean, it was an actual clear analysis of the situation and a set of constructive proposals. So thank you so much for taking the time and interest to do that. And thank you all for coming too. So I think what we'll do now is just start off with some questions and then get into a general discussion. Are there questions from the council?
Hey, Tom, one thing, since I have to vote on any of this and I wanted to listen and learn, can we also ask the traffic engineer about some of those points so we can hear? I want to start. Thank you very much. That was a very impressive presentation and appreciate that context and history. I'm ultimately going to be the one that has to vote on any of this. So I wanted to also be able to ask some questions, both of Cynthia and of the and our traffic engineer.
So why don't we start with you, Supervisor Joya?
Yeah, like including the weight restriction, which I know I've looked at. Cynthia, the one of the four, the one area that I would just sort of question, and I'm not an expert because there's been studies on this, is the crosswalk. And there's been studies that actually show, and it may be that crosswalks often, in the wrong locations, actually the data shows that they increase accidents because I guess it sort of intuitively makes sense that putting just the white line on the road doesn't make it safer because it creates this, what this study showed, pedestrians may step into the street without looking at as carefully as they would at an unmarked location. And San Diego, which studied a lot of this, said that the markings are not as visible to an approaching motorist as they are to a pedestrian. So their utility in warning motorists of the existence of pedestrians is very limited, and that actually increases the number of accidents and pedestrian injury. So I guess the question there is to the traffic engineer is whether there's any appropriate locations on Pebble that because we faced this in Kensington where the community at first wanted a crosswalk that connected a church to a parking lot that was like 50 feet before a traffic signal, and then it was concluded that that was actually more dangerous. And so I don't know, Monish, are there locations along there where it would be appropriate because we don't want to increase the hazard? And I've heard this, for the last number of years when crosswalks have been proposed, is that they have to be at the right location. Otherwise, again, this false sense of security leads to more accidents because the drivers don't really see it like the pedestrians do.
Yeah, John, absolutely. You pretty much hit it on the head. we basically, actually, let me take a step back. In general, we don't approve new unmarked or uncontrolled crosswalks. So controlled crosswalks are like at a signal or at a stop sign. So mid-block crosswalks, which you're proposing. We do have a policy, a county policy, where you can bring it forward, and you have brought it down forward to us. We can review it. Now, there's certain criteria that have to be met. And frankly, I'm gonna say pretty much, I don't think you on Pebble, it'll meet any of the criteria, but I'll give you a fair shot. So we'll go through the criteria, but in general, we haven't been putting in uncontrolled crosswalks because of what John mentioned, which is they provide, basically they provide a false sense of security to people who are crossing. I mean, we've all seen it, especially kids, they're looking at their phone, they see the crosswalk and bam, they're just walking. Because they feel like that's gonna protect them, but it doesn't often do that, so. But Cynthia, you brought it to our attention, we're gonna go through our county policy and we'll review that.
Even across the flashing lights.
So yeah, so those are enhanced crosswalks. So in my world, my perfect crosswalks are at stop signs, either at stop signs or at signals, because you're almost 100% protected. The next level of what I would find acceptable would be with the flashing lights. So those would be with
So the question is whether is there an appropriate location somewhere in the middle? You couldn't do as many, I think, as were suggested, but is there an appropriate location where a signal controlled flashing light and a crosswalk would make sense? That would be maybe the alternative. I've seen there's signal controlled. There's one near my office on San Pablo Avenue where the Ohlone Greenway crosses to the Richmond Greenway by the BART tracks. So if someone pushes that control, there's a flashing, it becomes a stop, and then the person can cross. So the question is, does that make sense here? I don't know. I'm just asking that. That may be an alternative. Let me just say, I would not vote to put unmarked crosswalks and be responsible for someone's death. I'm just saying, because I've seen this, I've heard it, I've read it. But if it's a controlled, with a light, that may be a different situation. And so, Monish, maybe you'll take a look at whether a controlled crosswalk makes sense somewhere along there, right? What about the weight restrictions? I know while it's only 3%, I mean, one thing, Cynthia, you didn't mention there that we need is additional enforcement. All of this needs, we've worked with CHP to try to get additional enforcement. I think that's something we want to continue with, is getting CHP to do enforcement. It's hard, right? We know it's hard, but the weight restriction is sort of one way. The weight restriction wouldn't apply, as I understand, to a local delivery, like someone's delivering concrete to a house that's doing a remodel, but it's to stop the through traffic. I mean, one of the things we've seen is Google Maps and Waze and all of those have caused people to take these shortcuts, right, that they may not otherwise have known because it's getting them around the traffic. I mean, this happened in Point Richmond, and there's like no way around that, unfortunately. How do we this is one of the downsides, I guess, of these traffic of Waze and all of those things. But on the weight restriction, I understand enforcement is really the issue. Why wouldn't we put a weight restriction on a street like that with all those curves? And it's connecting cars. There's a weight restriction on La Paloma, right? Which has more cars because it's straight. I know La Paloma and Pebble are the two sort of connectors that cause people to go up Appian Way up to get up to that part of El Sobrante. Why wouldn't we look at a weight restriction there?
So again, John, that's another point that Cynthia's brought up that we'll definitely take a look at. So my understanding is in other weight restrictions we've done, like perhaps like in North Richmond.
Yeah, right.
What we've had to show is that, first of all, that it's such a burden on the community. It's like exceeding other locations, So it's a major burden on the community. And that the trucks physically can't make the turns. So there's actually some kind of impediment, whether it may be, the design of the roadway or something that helps us justify the truck restrictions in essence. So, and the weight restrictions. Because otherwise it's basically for us to take it to the board and for you to approve it, we have to make it quite, and I can get more into details on the criteria that need to be met. But one of the reasons is that there's something about through commerce has to be accommodated on public roads.
Right, but if I mean realistically, right, it's like getting to truck routes. If a truck wants to get up there, the normal route would be Appian Way out to the triangle and then up to 80, right? If that's they're not supposed to take La Paloma either. Do we know the data about La Paloma, how successful we are on that?
So we have the weight restriction as of 1977 on that, but yeah, we'll pull the information on. But I'm guessing it's probably more than 3% because La Paloma is more of a straight shot down.
Yeah, I know. Right. I mean, because if a truck, we're not restricting. I mean, if a truck's trying to get up to Hilltop Drive from Appian Way, the normal route would be to go Appian Way, Valley View, right, Manor, and then Hilltop Drive. Is that what? Of course, people will complain who live on Manor Drive now. I get that. Is that those are the main routes? Would that be the normally preferable route?
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to look at the entire community but I think it comes back to your first question is so we've got the weight restriction on La Paloma, but what is the percentage of trucks that are currently using it?
Yeah. How effective has that been? Right.
I'm guessing it's higher than 3%.
Can I tell you something? I've lived on White Sands Court since '98. I think there's some businesses on Appian that have big trucks.
Yeah.
There are quite a few. I think they're using it because I've noticed the increase. And also one of my neighbors has a trucking business, and I think he's the one that's got the flatbed with the little backhoe thing. So he's been part of it.
There's nothing we can do about it, even with the weight restriction, because he'd be saying, I'm using this road to get my supplies to other places, and I'm already on the road.
Yeah.
So they couldn't even if CHP was out there and it's called a bill of lading. He has to show, somebody gets stopped. They have to
park his vehicles there on White Sands Court like that?
Well, that's parking is a home.
So I have to contact the CSL.
Well, just contact us.
So I was thinking we could start with questions from the council and then we'll go.
I'm sorry.
Questions from.
I just thought maybe that would be helpful to know.
And then let me just encourage as to the markings and Manish, you'll look at that. I forgot that was number 2 or number 3, the markings.
Like Cynthia mentioned, she's absolutely right. And John, you know this, we're doing everything we can to try to narrow roads.
Right.
And those kind of things, because we've shown that speeds go down when you do all that.
Right.
I think that the low hanging fruit would be to try to do some kind of striping efforts.
Right. And sorry, go ahead.
When in the ground on the pavement markings, it slows people down because it's more of something to look at. So it's little things like that.
So I think what we'll do now is we'll quickly go to questions from the council. Supervisor Joya, do you have any further comments?
No, that's it.
So Linda, you have been raising your hand.
Yes, there's 2 things. One is I wonder about stop signs. Because that is a controlled crosswalk if you put in a 4-way stop, right? So I'm curious about that and whether that's a possibility, Monish, because that would also slow things down significantly if there could be, if one time through that whole Pebble thing, there was one stop sign, it would probably slow everything down again. Is that possible?
And so what you're mentioning is what almost everyone comes to me with, which is, hey, people are speeding on my road, can we put in a stop sign?
Yep.
It's either that or speed bumps. Those are the 2 1-2 punch. Now, unfortunately, we have to put in stop signs based on warrants. They're called warrants that have to be met. And the reason why, let me go back a step. Stop signs are a right-of-way control device. They're not a very good traffic control device. So let me take a step back.
Well, I'm just saying the stop signs are so that you can make it possible for pedestrians to cross the street.
Right.
That's really the point of doing it. Would it slow things down as well? That would be a secondary potential. I'm saying this is so that pedestrians don't get killed, like the guy with the kid. If there was at least one, and I get it, that having a crosswalk with no stop sign is stupid. I get that. But why not a stop sign?
Right. So again, I'm not gonna go into all the nitty-gritty details about it, but we would have to run warrants on that, and we can definitely do that. I'm telling you right now, it's not gonna be warrants. So we can't stop 2,600 vehicles a day in the anticipation one person may be trying to cross with a child. I know that sounds.
But there is no legal or safe place to cross Pebble Drive anywhere. That's all I'm saying. And I got it. Maybe the laws are wrong.
You know, the reason why, I'll tell you one of the major reasons why I flat out won't put a stop sign that's not warranted is because when we do put in a stop sign that's unwarranted, in other words, it's not meeting the criteria as a right-of-way control device, it diminishes the value of all the other stop signs that are up there. If I went down Pebble, whatever, all 2,600 vehicles a day, and I'm coming to that stop and I never see another vehicle or somebody on the crossroad, I will roll through it. And what that does is it diminishes the value of the other stop sign where I really want people to stop. Okay. That sounds heartless, but it's the facts. If I put in a stop sign every time I was requested, every intersection would have a stop. And you know what? That sounds good actually, right? No, I feel safer. I'm going to an intersection, there's a stop sign.
It doesn't.
But it doesn't because people roll through that.
Okay, I hear, thanks for the answer to the question. I did have one other thing, I think, just quickly. So it strikes me that, and John, this is way above any of our pay grades. But it is pretty clear to me that Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze, all of these companies, by doing the business the way they're doing it, which is basically finding the fastest way for anybody to get from point A to point B, they are turning neighborhood roads into arterial roadways. And that ought to be illegal. Now, I get it, that's a state problem, and it's probably really complicated, but I think there ought to be some way to hold them accountable for doing that. Because they have turned neighborhood roads into arterial roadways. And that ought to be a zoning violation of some kind.
Or it should allow the roads to be reconsidered in lieu of the fact that these GPS.
Yeah. So I get it, that's a horrible piece of litigation and it's really state law.
And the question is whether or not you can actually enforce this, you know, in this country. Right, I just don't know. I mean, I don't know how you, with the thousands of streets, how that's done. Yeah, I hear you. The reality has become a problem.
Shame them.
Thank you. Questions?
Don't shame them, not you, John, but them.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, what about exceptions to these rules? To the criteria? I mean, is that possible to appeal those, you know, you have certain criteria that you want to meet in order to create a hump or to create a thing. What about exception is there a process for that?
Yeah, well, so like with stop signs, I'm gonna pretty much.
Not at the stop sign, I mean, I understand.
No, so like everything she's brought up, we're gonna come back to the office and we'll go through those.
Okay.
And we'll address them. And yeah, like, let's just say we don't, you know, we look at the raw numbers, the data, it doesn't make sense. And, say for speed humps, it doesn't, we don't think we looked at our criterion and we don't think it meets that.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, yeah, sure, Supervisor Joy can say, we've got this money fund that we want, go put it in right here. And then we'll go put it in. Not in the 8% part, in the flat spot. But so Yeah, if can our analysis be overruled and money can be found somewhere? Yes, that can happen.
Okay, George?
So this is for you. How many police reports has you and your neighbors filed with this crazy driving? You mentioned the individual that passed you on the blind curve over the double yellow line. So I'm assuming that these were reported to the police?
No, that happens a couple of times a day.
You gotta report it every time it happens.
Okay.
Every single time it happens, you have to report it because there's.
Highway patrol.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every single time it happens, you must report it because therefore, when you are bringing your case, say, we need help. You have all these documentations of these instances. And I'm assuming most of you have doorbell cams or some of you have them. Maybe they capture that image of this stuff happening, so there's video of it as well. Because that way, you know, it's a record because it's a public thoroughfare, it's a vehicle, it's public. Excuse me, they got license plates and everything, so you got information that can be shared with the appropriate authorities to let them know that this is a problem. Because you said that, I mean, I don't pedal drive frequently, I do take it occasionally when I'm coming, say, from the post office, I'm getting my home in Lambert. So I go up APN and I take pedal drive and I go up. And sometimes I go down, I don't put much care because of the blind curves and the strain on the brakes on anyone's car. But you know what you said, that's crazy. You don't see, I've never seen anything like that on La Paloma, when people are passing like that, but you know, they do that on that street, that's a problem and it's gotta report it.
I appreciate that moves it from anecdotal data.
You got hard data there and you got something to person because, and you know, as for enforcement from CHP, it's an issue because of staffing, because that is the why, because we like when Sergeant Pruitt shows up to meet from CHP. He's been to one meeting in the last 18 months because they don't have the staffing. Because they know the issue on Pebble Drive, they know the other issues that we have with the other roads where people drive like wrongly. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, George. So I think what we can do now is open the discussion to the floor. Are there certain?
Yeah, I just want to make a couple of really brief comments. First of all, Cynthia's presentation, she did a ton of work. This was very much consensus with, I'd say, everybody who's in this room and a few other people. She ran ideas by us. Sharon, as who's pointed out, been at this forever. We've had meetings in our backyard, as Manisha knows, a couple of times.
I think that was right during COVID too.
Yeah. Especially true.
That's why I was in your backyard. That's why I was in your backyard.
No, the main thing is that this is, the spirit of this is that, you know, we'd like to expand it not just to others on Pebble, but I think there's particularly a lot of you people, God knows the good table, the Saturday cleanups. The idea of having reciprocity and coming up with strategic plans for people's problems on their streets. Let's say we're just leaving the word traffic in there. It's ubiquitous. There's a lot of places where things are really tough for people. Pebble has its own essential, really scary elements. But I think those of us on Pebble it's not only that we worked with Cynthia, who carries obviously a lot of talent, but I think we all believe that there is this reciprocity needed, that it strengthens people's capacity to work with Manish, to work with John, to work with anybody. I like the idea of increasing the anecdotal data, although you can never get the make of the car as they're careening behind you or their license plate.
But you can say it happened.
But it happened.
Are you reporting this reckless driving?
It is reckless driving.
But is that how you report? What do you say? Like, this guy illegally passed me, or?
Well, what Cynthia said, and I think if you've got somebody that is passing you on a blind curve over a double yellow line.
Even on the straightaway, it's dangerous.
Well,
on the downhill.
It's a double yellow line.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Right.
It's illegal. That's what you have to tell them. If
Okay.
you want to include the blind curve part, that's more of a thing. You can actually, even as part of the report, if online, maybe I think you could attach images.
If you do an online report of the street itself and say, this is where it is, where it happened, because, you know, CHP will look at, okay, double hill line, but if you give them the imagery as well, it's like, aha, you know, because, but again, it's, as I said, it's the reporting aspect of it. Every time it happens, to the best, report to the best of your ability. They might get tired of hearing you to that, because it's a safety issue.
Okay, thank you.
The only other part was the 3-ton, that was really looking at the trucks, taking pictures of the trucks, and then looking at the size of trucks, that there was a 7-ton limit on Mount Paloma. A 5-ton truck is really big, rolling down the street, and a 3-ton truck, okay, you gotta stop somewhere and be reasonable, and obviously, anybody who's delivering a needed, you know, item on that street needs to be able to take as big a truck as they need to and deal with it. But that's why the 3-ton came out of it, was really looking at the dangers that we were seeing, our own observations, and, you know, it's.
I mean, even if the traffic is, you know, small in volume, the potential of catastrophe of one single incident.
If it's 3%, I don't know how long that study went, that's 80 trucks.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize gentlemen at the back.
Yeah, hi, I'm one of the residents of the Public Drive. Just to take off what Richard is saying right now about the way the trucks are going barreling up and down that hill sometimes. It's, me and my wife recently had to do for a company called Groundworks. We had to get our house raised on piers because of the slope. The house was sliding down, the back wall was separating, and so we did it. And when when they came over to look at the house and we asked them, you know, like, they told them what are the causes of this? Yeah, the rains, and so that we had a pretty wet rain last year, that kind of thing. Natural earth shifting, earthquakes, all that. He's like, and he brought up, without prompting, he said, and those trucks that keep coming up and down the street. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, that is a large part of what is unsettling the soil underneath your house and the soil underneath all these houses.
And all of those houses that were built in the 50s are all built on slab, so they're gonna move.
And none of them were 100% correct. None of them compacted soil.
So
that's why everything on the other side of the street.
Further evidence of how these houses were not built to handle this volume, but they were built to handle the kind of weight that those trucks barrel up and down that perfect fucking line. And I won't even let my daughter go out in front of the house because of all of these issues. My daughter's 3.5 years old, and I have had in the last year alone 2 people, 2 cars. That picture that with that red truck that was put up, that was my house. I had somebody else later crash into the front of my house again, and I lose sleep over the fact that it's only, I imagine it's already been twice. It's only a matter of time before something really goes out of control, and I wind up with a new car in my living room or in the middle of my daughter's room.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I'll do about that. So when I hear about like, it can't be this, it can't be that, it can't be that, it can't be this, all I know is everything I just told you. And as this neighborhood and as this city, I'm a business owner in the city, similarly to the client. And I know the changes that are happening in the city. It's why I particularly wanted to open my bookshop, along with Melinda, who let me be a part of the Good Table to do it. I know the demographics are changing. It's only going to grow. This problem is only going, I know it's only going to get worse because the entire reason that my business exists is part of that reason. Because the traffic is increasing, which is exciting for the city. It's also dangerous for that.
I really appreciate your comment. Thank you. And are there further?
I just wanted to ask Monisha a quick question. You threw out a stat about after you put the warning, the suggested speed limits on the curbs.
The warning speed limits.
The warning speed limits, that.
Curb warnings.
Curb warnings, that, the accidents.
Reported collisions.
Reported collisions, the curb?
In the curb, we didn't see any reported collisions.
Interesting.
Maybe there was people ending up in people's front yards.
I mean, day is that again?
If
What year
somebody,
did that happen?
so we put that in 2021.
Okay. Okay. Wow. I had a friend house sitting and cat sitting for me whose car was I don't want to say smashed. It didn't look that smashed, but it actually well, you saw it, I wasn't there when it happened, but it was a hit and run, and it cost her $4,000 to get it fixed.
Unfortunately, that won't be picked up by, because it's a hit and run, it's not in a day.
I mean, it was like literally practically in my front yard, which is the craziest part of it. You heard it happen? Yeah, I was out of town. That's
the data because they're not reported.
well, this one was reported to Highway Patrol. Like Highway Patrol came. I have photos of it on my phone. I'm like,
then it's reported.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. We do have other items that we need to get to during the meeting. So I think maybe a couple more comments. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if is that how feasible, but what about any kind of traffic camera that can monitor those things, possibly with a sign or be watched or something like that? I don't know if that would have any impact, but then I have one other question unrelated to this for Monique.
Oh.
Should I ask that?
Go ahead.
Okay. Why is it taking so long to get the San Pablo Dam Road, La Honda sinkhole fixed? I mean, now it was supposed to be this year, and now it looks like it's next year.
They finished Wildcat Canyon.
Yeah, we did finish Wildcat Canyon.
That was a miracle.
And again, that's out of my legal, but it's my understanding is, and you know what? Through Ronnie, I'll get you like I think we have a website you can go to, which kind of identifies.
Why don't you send this to Nikki via Ronnie?
Okay.
Yeah.
But the other question about light camera, is that at all a thing? Is that a thing? Traffic cameras?
We can on a public road monitor people's traffic.
So are there any further questions for either Monish or Cynthia?
One question. Regarding the speed limit signs that you can call and ask to be put on the street, the electronic ones that show people how fast they're going. Yeah, speed. So something that I've learned from neighbors who have ordered those is that they only come between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. when like the height of traffic is earlier in the morning and later in the evening. So I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Oh, cool.
So we have there's something called a portable speed feedback sign that we can deploy throughout the county. Okay. And that was, so we have one for all 700 miles of road.
Oh, wow.
So now with that said, and a location like this, the other thing about placing that, it has to be placed where it's like, you can kind of place it where it's ideally gonna get picked up and all that stuff. And it's placed by one of our technicians. And the reason we can't leave it out over days is they get vandalized.
Yeah.
Otherwise, so it's basically within that working time of the technician.
Mm-hmm.
So we're limited in that. We are in the process of getting a brand new one, so.
Thank you very much, everybody. And I would just like to close off the discussion is just say, I thought that Cynthia brought up a lot of really interesting ideas. And I would hope that, you can actually go through and look at each one of them and, have some response. And then the other thing I would encourage is, just because this, the data might indicate that there are other thoroughfares that merit more attention by virtue of volume of traffic, et cetera. These folks have a pretty severe enough lived experience that they've shown up in multitudes to present their case here. So I would really encourage you to look with great detail at innovative ways of helping them reduce the volume and speed of traffic, because it does, clearly sound like there's a real, a real hazard to living there. And just because there are, overwhelming number of casualties so far, it doesn't mean that something catastrophic can't happen in the future because of these really heavy trucks and, you know, these cars that are constantly whizzing by. So, yeah, I just really hope that this starts a lot of really productive discussions. Thank you.
And Tom, let me just say, I appreciate hearing to hear this. This is helpful. And I know, you know, we'll work with the traffic engineer to make sure he looks at all these, not just maybe what was suggested, but you know, he may come up with other ideas. I mean, the goal is trying to address the speeding and the hazards that exist there in whatever way is most effective. And Monish may have some other ideas based on some other experiences. So the idea is we'll make sure there's a report back to the MAC on it and to the neighbors.
Well, thank you, Monish. Thank you, Supervisor Jordan. Thank you, neighbors. So we've got item 6, services introduction, Contra Costa Family Justice Center. Is there a presentation?
Hi. Hi. Hello. I'm here in real life. Well, thank you for this. I'm number 4K. Well, good evening, everyone. It's kind of like my for my name is LaShari Johnson. I am the West Center Director for the Contra Costa Family Justice Alliance. We are located in Richmond on 24th Street off of McDonald's. So if you're familiar with the City Hall and Civic Center, we're literally steps away from there, diagonal from McDonald's on McDonald's. So I like to always know that McDonald's. We're one of 5 centers, so we started off at the Hilltop Mall. I remember the Hilltop Mall. So we started out there in the Richmond Police substation, and we grew, got our own space, and then since then we've opened up 4 more locations. So there's Richmond, there's Concord, there's Antioch, and we just opened up Danville, which is in South County, last year. We also have had the pleasure of bringing in the Solano Family Justice Center under us. So we formally now go by Contra Costa and Solano Family Justice Center. A goal, hope of mine is that maybe Vallejo will get one, and that would be really awesome. Has anyone ever heard of the Family Justice Center? All right. Right. Oh, not many hands, but at the end of this, you all will be able to. So the Family Justice Center supports individuals who've been affected by interpersonal violence. So that's sexual assault, human trafficking, elder abuse, child abuse, and stalking, domestic violence, those types of things, right? One big umbrella, several things that people have been affected by. And the interesting thing about our work is that we support folks from literally 0 and up. So we see everyone. We don't screen anyone out. Everyone is able to access our services free of charge. So that's one thing I love about our agency is that all of our services are free. And all of us, we probably know someone, right? Or have met someone or have our own personal experience with these interpersonal violences. We may have our own personal story. We may have a friend who's experienced domestic violence, or at least have heard or seen a movie, right? Or something along those lines. So this isn't something that's just like way out there. This is definitely serious work. And I really am glad to be a part of it. John Joyner, who's just on the line with us, he has been very instrumental in us opening the Family Justice Center. He's come to our office, spent time with us. I go to the events that he hosts every chance I can get. And I think it's probably how I even got here. So
we led the first opening in Richmond, remember, with Chief Magnus, and Richmond was the first location in the county.
Yes, thank you. And we really appreciate the support. We were able to go and present every so often, just showcasing our work, what we're doing, what we're working on, what innovations we're able to do. We have several partners in the county. At least I think we're plus 70 partners. Our center is a co-collaborative hub, so it kind of looks like this. We have meeting spaces, we have community spaces, and then we have lots of cubicle spaces for our partners. Meals on Wheels is part of us. We have a representative who's there every day, Monday through Friday, providing support. We have the district attorney, we have law enforcement, we have community violence solutions, STAND, EHSD, all those benefits and things that people need when they've experienced a form of violence, they're at our site. And if they're not, then we have the means to connect with them, send referrals, receive referrals. We are a walk-in center, so people can just come on in Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. There's always the focus on what happens after 5. I have a solution for that. And then you can always give us a call, you can reach out via email. We're more than glad to assist. So I have a wonderful slideshow. I'm glad it made it. I'm going to try to get through it not super fast, because I want you to remember, but I know the time is well spent. Our mission, I kind of went over that with our community support. We have integrated capable partners with a comprehensive service approach to renew individuals and community from the trauma of family and violence. We envision a vibrant community that's free of coercion, right? We want a place where people don't have to feel fearful. Our goal is to make sure our centers are a community hub for education, comprehensive and integrated services in the pursuit of justice, hope, and healing. So we want people to be able to come to the Family Justice Center and know that they can speak to someone, a navigator. Myself, I'm a director, but I still talk to clients all the time, supporting my team to be able to provide great services to our community. We're going to the next slide. As I shared, these are the things that we support with. Now, some people do come to our center and they might be a little lost. They might have a signal something, you know, their neighbor's dog is barking, and we're like, okay, I know our name says the Family Justice Center, but we might have to redirect you to report out to deal with that. But we're at least able to assist. Our goal is to listen, really. So even if you're not sure, your friend, your neighbor, your coworker, they're not able to maybe articulate what they're experiencing, we at least can talk to them and listen and see if they've been affected by domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, elder abuse, or human trafficking, and direct them in the right direction. All right, so what our clients have experienced is a very fractured system. So the background picture is the Contra Costa County building, which is in Martinez. Martinez is a nice scenic drive that you would have to experience if we were not to exist. So, oh my gosh, don't mention the bus. But for most of us, you know, we might drive or we might have someone who can take us, but some of our survivors, they don't even have a vehicle, or their vehicle is owned by the opposing party. So they would typically have to go to Martinez or go to the courthouse, if they've ever even been there, know where that's at, and seek a restraining order or get some advocacy support, safety planning, or assistance with shelters, like have to call some numbers, maybe do a Google search or something to figure that out. I don't know exactly where I would even start, you know, right away if I didn't interact with law enforcement or maybe the hospital, but most of our clients, they don't even have that luxury or ability to be able to make these connections and actually make them the correct way the first time. Most people they're trying to do this and they stumble along, or they get like a dial tone, they get the wrong number, they get directed to the wrong place, they're closed. So being able to navigate all of this is very, very difficult. So the Family Justice Center, our goal is to have people meet us, or we meet you in community and things like this, and we're able to do the footwork for you, right? We're able to make the connections for our clients so they can get on the path to healing. I think that's the next one. Thank you. This is just a nice little wheel that shows pretty much what we saw in the previous video, all in one centered space where we talk about the victim always. That is our center and our main focus, getting our clients the crisis support they need. So that could be a restraining order, counseling, law enforcement, advocacy, case management. Always thinking about their safety first, right? Do you need to get into housing? Do you need to escape or relocate, I like to say? some safety planning, and talk about your safety net, like what things will you need or what things can we do to help you stay safe. Most people, they know kind of what they want to do. Some people have tried several different things multiple times. And some folks, it's like their first time experiencing something, and they're like, please tell me which way to go. I just don't want this anymore, right? Takes most people about 7 times to decide if they want to leave an abusive partner. 7 times may seem like 7 too many, but when you're in love with someone or you are dependent, or you don't have the means, you don't have a high education, you may not have a job, you may not have the resources, sometimes staying, your safety is literally like, do I pay the light bill or do I buy the groceries? Right? So it really is like that for a lot of our clients. And then we want to focus them on their long-term safety, right? Once we address those center core needs, let's talk about your health. Let's talk about your education, working, saving money, community. There's so much safety in there's so much safety in community. Just like what you all are talking about with the traffic and all that, which has been very informative for me. I don't live in El Sobrante, but I've spent a lot of time in this area. Like the things that you guys are doing it's not just for you, for your kids. This is for people who are coming long after you, right? For people who, may not even know your names, but because of your advocacy work, because you've been so careful and thoughtful, that people's lives are being saved. And that's what we really believe in at the Family Justice Center, is getting people connected to community and being able to connect with others. All right, a little bit about us. We have some context. This is a little old. I think I made it last year, which wasn't that long ago. We have about 9 law enforcement agencies who are in partnership with us. We have a little bit more actually now, I would say. We have 9 public agencies, 58 community partners. We're at 70 now. We are, of course, across 5 centers, so that lets us be able to stretch our arms really deep into Contra Costa County. We have a collaborative partnership, which allows our victims to get connected, survivors to get connected to resources more quickly. It's really tough when you're trying to navigate the whole phone line thing and Google and whatever Google can say. But connecting to an agency like us who can actually give you some sure names of people we know that will help is amazing. Crisis support, long-term safety, and community building. That is our core. Thank you. So as John Andrea mentioned, very influential in our us just coming to be and coming to the city of Richmond. It's a little teeny on the font, so I'm just going to help us out here. So in 2001, the county implemented a zero tolerance situation here. We want to do zero tolerance to domestic violence. Sounds good. We don't tolerate it. We don't like that. We don't want that. It's not good for our community. However, with zero tolerance, it can be very punitive, and it can start to kind of put people in systems that they probably shouldn't be in all the time. Because people find themselves in different places to where they might be the victim, they might be the person who's causing harm, they might be the person trying to keep folks safe, they might be the person who's now being a victim again. So sometimes with the zero tolerance, those, what did I call them? Call them WAVE, more like initiative. It really can be tough on people, a little bit more than we want. 2009, sorry, we had some planning for the Family Justice Center. So I was like, hey, we need one of these in our area. Contra Costa County is a very large county. We cover so much ground. And there's a lot of things, violence, harms that happen here. 2011, we opened. 2014, we started planning for Concord, opened up Concord. Then we did some more nonprofit work, planning for East, 2018. Our Antioch office opened in 2019. And then you probably can guess what happened after that. The pandemic. So that was a little bruiser, but we still were able to stay open. Domestic violence did shoot up, it skyrocketed, I should stop saying shoot up. Skyrocketed, that's your problem. domestic violence increased in the county. And we were able to still keep our doors open. And in 2020, that's when I started. So cool to me. That's when I joined the team, and I feel like we just started doing better after that. And there you go. And then we did some more great work. We kept our center open, our doors open, supporting clients who were coming in. It was like two staff on site every day, trying to do the whole spacing thing. And we're able to provide services. And in 2024, we started running from East. South County. They had been after us for a while to come in to Danville, San Ramon, that area. So they say, "Oh, you just wouldn't think that violence happens there." That's what they all want to preach. Yes, there's a lot of stuff that's happening here. Maybe it's a reward, who knows? But there was a need and there was an ask for us to come, and our executive director, Susan Kim, was amazing. Did a lot of work with Family Legal Aid, has really led us and really made an point to let the communities know that we're here and we want to provide service. So we opened up our South County in 2025. Very proud of that. All right, a little background, some little data of what we do. In West, we served over 1,000 families and over 1,000 children. In Central, 2,000 or so, about 1,500 children. East, nice 1,000. And children, 1,100. In our Solano office, we finally got some numbers from, we opened in 2023, I believe, with the Solano, and they served 1,800 families and 1,700 children. That's a lot of people. If you add all that together, right? 6,235 families and over 5,000 children. And we've been able to provide services such as free legal consults. So talking to a lawyer does wonders for people. Just one hour consult, you can get so many questions answered that you normally would have to pay a couple $100s for just to even talk to a lawyer over the phone. We have our telehealth programs that we offer. We have a children's camp that we offer. We also have counseling and therapy, which was a very big ask of the community through our surveys and the feedback that we received. So we've opened up a completely new clinical arm to the Family Justice Center, to where we're able to provide there. I love seeing the kids come in. They're so cute. How often does domestic violence happen between partners? 1 in 3 and 1 in 4. We all know that a lot of men don't report often for various reasons, not being believed, not feeling it's a space welcoming for them, feeling like they can handle it on their own. And sometimes they don't really always see the violence as domestic violence. It's just like, oh, she sliced my tires. And it's like, oh, yeah, we could talk about that a little bit more and get you to the support that you need. In Contra Costa, how is this happening here? It's such a beautiful place and everyone is so kind. But in 2023, there were about 3,200 domestic violence reports. And we have about 26 law enforcement agencies. This, of course, doesn't account like the phone calls, the ones that are not reported, but it's happening. And what we like to think about, okay, there's 3,200 domestic violence reports. How many of those did we talk to? How many of those folks knew where to go? How many of those folks were able to talk to someone and feel safe and feel supported? How many people were able to leave safely? How many people lost their lives as a result of domestic violence? That happens more often than we like to think about, but it is a very real thing for folks in our communities. And these are our neighbors, these are our kids' friends, our kids' parents, who we work with, that we pass by all the time, who are going through this and dealing with this silently. And so it's our goal, my goal tonight, is to inform you all about this and let you know that there are places, there are people who care, who have some time, that want to support your loved ones, your friends, your family, your neighbors, your community members with the support that you need to get to a safer space in life, right? And get on their healing journey. We can go to the next slide. So we've gotten to domestic violence in firearms. Some of you all remember a couple of years ago up in the Sacramento area, there was a family They were doing some supervised visitation, and the father unfortunately took the lives of the children and the supervised visitation person. When that happened, it really sparked a real big wave of questions. How did this happen? What can we do? This is very unfortunate, of course, but there was like a task force that would you filed a restraining order and you indicate that the person had a weapon. They would try to do a lot to get that weapon from the person, but funding, budget cuts is really hard to keep up. So we've really done a lot of work to raise awareness around domestic violence and firearms. Because if a person does have a firearm, it's most likely that they will use it, and that they will use it against their partner. So it's really unfortunate. We've been running bus ads. May have seen them, may not have, but they've been running through on Westcat, through El Cerrito and Pinole, and then we also had one that just launched in Concord, where they're placing like our billboards about domestic violence and firearms. Thank you. If you want to learn more about the firearm relinquishment, it's SB 30. There's a QR code. I can share it with the ways I'm supposed to share for you all, and you can learn more about it. If you would like to take on your cellular devices, this is the opportunity to use it. We're good. And you can scan the QR code to learn more about the gun codes. Really push it. Thank you. Child abuse of children, my favorite. I'm also the director of our kids camp. I've been running for 4 years now. It's probably one of like the crown jewel of my work. It never stops. Camp season is right around the corner, but our camps are for our youth who've experienced directly and indirectly interpersonal violence. It's led me to do this type of research, like what is happening, what are they experiencing, and one of the things, of course, child abuse, and it happens. We've across the county child abuse data, there are about 713 referrals made to children and family services each month. CFS, formerly known as CPS, they're doing a lot of work with just changing their ways to be more supportive to families, and not try to use methods of like removal all the time, and just being able to give parents the resources that they need, right? Why just remove a kid from a family to pay another family to do the things the other family could do if you just could have given them money to pay for their life, right? So when parents are typically stressed, they usually are more likely to cause harm to their children. But these things are happening in Contra Costa often as well, and we do see children 0 and up. I think that's what they say in like the fairs of like children of all ages. So we see everyone. You know the next one? Is there a next one? Wow.
Per month?
Yeah, that was pretty best.
It? Wow, this is really good. Okay. So my next part would be it could be. Oh, there's the human trafficking. Just some more fun. Oh my God, there's more slides. I have a lot of different versions of the slides. Human trafficking, we participate in supporting our local law enforcement teams who come together to combat human trafficking. And that can be labor trafficking, right? So folks who are working in jobs and they're like, hey, you know, we're gonna pay you, but you're gonna give us your paper and we're gonna hold on to it, and now you can't leave and you're living in the basement, right? So you can build a bridge. It's a real thing. So years ago, they were working on a bridge showing. It's a real story. Now, years ago, when they were fixing the Bay Bridge, a contractor was contracted to hire a workforce. They actually went back in and they hired some folks who didn't have all the right credentials, brought them over to their paperwork and things like that, had them living in some random little place and was like barely paid, like, and they couldn't leave. So like it happens all the time. But labor trafficking, sex trafficking, commercial sex work, children who are exposed to human trafficking, we've helped recover a few children over the years who've been out and are, just trying to survive, right? And it's really unfortunate because a lot of times you're forced to recruit other children or recruit other people. And we don't want to bring that up to kids, right? We're being forced to do those things, but they're able to receive services here. Some of the things that our survivors need, as some of you would probably remember, safety, food, basic needs, family law. Our family law is like our #1 need for our clients. Housing, of course, we all know the housing situation is not that great, but we do our best to place our clients in a safe and welcoming space. Support groups, victim witness assistance, youth services. We move to the next year. About to get again. So here's a breakdown of our different types of counseling programs that we offer in the ages. Because we have now so many clinicians a part of our agency. We even partnered with JFK School of Psychology, who was willing to provide support for our clients as well. These are clinicians who are trying to get like their hours and are able to provide some voluntary time to support our clients. Our lawyers of family justice, we've pretty much given them a name. They only support with restraining orders, family law, and immigration. So we cannot consult with you about your business or, your new venture or anything like that. It has to be these 3 things. And for the most part, we don't have any problems finding people who need it. We have a question. So they are really sweet, amazing folks. They do really great work. All for us, for little nothing. At least for our clients, it's good. Now that's the
Talking with us. Have you ever had the chance to go in and present to the Advisory Council on Aging?
The Advisory Council on Aging, I think we've been on, we're on a lot of the stuff we do, sometimes we're brought in on like a multidisciplinary team or a council or and we present together sometimes.
So, I'll try and reach out to you through Ronnie. I'm on the Health and Elder Abuse Prevention Committee of the Advisory Council on Aging. And so that's the sort of the Citizens Oversight Board for the Area Agency on Aging, which is the Public Health Department's division devoted to the elder population.
Yes.
And so we have a subcommittee that's charged with prevention of giving the county advice on prevention of elder abuse. So I think, maybe you could send somebody to come talk with us at one of our meetings.
We would love to. We'd actually love for you to partner with us. I was on the supporting our team on elder abuse and aging, and now it's over a gentleman named Nick who used to work for Wheels on Wheels. Now does a lot of that work on our behalf, of course, supporting any initiative around like elders, APS, like working together to provide support. This year, which I will share with everyone, we will be having a Slice of Life where we work with senior legal services, Meals on Wheels, and another agency, I can't recall at this time, about doing like their future planning and talking about different things that, are just tough for our seniors, which is my next favorite population, to serve and to support. So I think it would actually.
Great. So,
Get business cards or.
I have a couple of goodies here.
yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I want to report you.
How is this funded? How are you?
Oh, God. Okay, so we get money, we're funded, through the county, we're funded through the state, we're funded federally. We also get, just small grants that, are looking for people who are doing the work that we're doing. We'll just try to apply, and sometimes we get them. So,
Yeah, they probably take your donation too.
we would. We have a gala coming up was our one and only biggest fundraiser that we do. So we do one phone fundraiser. We're not always asking people to give. I think it would foster more community support and more people know about us. But we aren't really like that. We go to our website, it's not like give to us first thing. But it is like, a place where people, I think, find a lot of, they appreciate the work we're doing. The UA Plumbers is a amazing organization that supports us. That comes to our gala. I feel like that means the work we're doing. And thank you.
Yes, so we work with the district attorney out of Martinez, and we do the gala every year, you guys. So that's what I was gonna get at. I didn't know if you were gonna bring up the gala and the fundraiser, but it's such a great organization, and we're very proud to be part of it, so.
Thank you.
There are plenty of folks here who would like your contact info.
Yeah, I would love to. I have some pamphlets. I might have my cards. I think it's back somewhere.
Well, thank you so much for coming and presenting. So we don't have any discussion items. But we now it is time for public comment. So anything that wasn't on the agenda of the meeting that somebody would like to comment on, 2 minutes each. Is there any public comment?
Well, it feels like pretty late, but let me just say what we were gonna say. My name is Cheryl Mann. I live here in Australia, Valley. I live on Cranway, which sometimes is Richmond, sometimes it's Sobrante. You never know. We are West Cocoa County individuals, and we are the people responsible for demonstrating for democracy on the corner of San Pablo Dam Road and Appian Way every Friday for the Board of. We're there to protect our democracy. We're not there as partisan. We're there to protect our democracy, stand for social justice and inclusion and respect for all of our neighbors and all of our people. And we just want to announce that we'd like to be on the agenda for a full presentation next March. I've already emails about that. We want you to know that our next meeting is at the big table on Sunday, February 22nd, and we will be working hard on the next No Kings demonstrations, which will be March 28th.
Are there any further public comments? Okay, in that case, I don't think we have necessarily any information items from MAC members. Any information items?
One brief thing.
Okay.
Some of you, in fact, probably most people in this room know that more and more events are starting to happen at the Good Table. And what you may not have figured out is that we have a really great online calendar. So if you go to the-good-table.org and you see event calendar, you can even subscribe to it. So for example, on Saturday this weekend, we will have a Kundalini yoga workshop. We're going to have a trauma release workshop, followed by traditional Irish music. Something for everyone. So, check that out. Because people keep saying, well, I just heard about that and I didn't know it was happening. You get all of this online. So do go to our website and get our calendar. Lots of good stuff happening.
In that case, we have one subcommittee.
Okay, yep.
So we'll have
Okay.
our subcommittee report.
I'd like to add to the Good Table, that's Sunday between 2 and 4 is also an art show and in Princeton. So.
And more importantly, Miracle Davis is baking pies to go with the art show.
So I'll keep this short. Okay, so our upcoming Thursday, Saturday cleanup, if you'd like to have a postcard about that as a reminder. We do it every third Saturday of the month. We pick up litter around the town. So you're welcome to join us, meet us at the library here in the parking lot at 10 o'clock. And we have all the equipment you can borrow from us and join in the fun of keeping us Sobrante clean and beautiful. We are also going to be having a subcommittee meeting on the 23rd, Monday, the 23rd at 6 o'clock in this room, where we're going to be talking about what do we want to do to make our town cleaner and more beautiful, and talk about different ideas. So it'll be a brainstorming session on what we think we'd like to see in this town. Also, we'd like to talk about signs that we want to put around the town to remind people not to litter and make it artsy and nice to raise the consciousness about littering. So hopefully you'll come to our meeting on the Monday, the 23rd at 6 o'clock here. And then we're gonna have mark your calendar, we're gonna have an Earth Day event here where we team up with spawners and SOS Richmond to clean up the streets and the creeks on that day. And it's a lot of fun, and we'll hopefully have some info tables for the community if they want to set up something to put out your information that we should know about. Hopefully Meals on Wheels will join us this year, they have in the past, and that kind of thing. That, what am I missing? Okay, that's it.
Got one more item. Thank you, Nikki.
Yeah.
Jerry got some.
Yeah, there's gonna be a pop-up market on Sunday, March 1st from 10 to 4 at the former Christian school that's also close to the Franklin. Apparently Works is sponsoring, it's like a flea market, but it's a vendor's market, and if you want information about it, here to the flyers, and there's a phone number to call to get more information. That's just a little reminder.
Same time as a farmer's market, but it's not gonna be a problem.
It's only gonna be part of that Christian school, and we're leaving at least half of it open.
Just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We know the two things are happening at the same time.
But it's a whole.
Yeah, it's very different.
All right, so agenda items for upcoming meetings.
I want to correct something. It says here our next meeting is March 18th, and the second Wednesday is the 11th.
This is true. Good catch. Thank you so much.
Our next meeting will have invisible on the agenda and regular presentation.
You know, so Hela had asked me about adding her, she wanted to give more of a presentation about the evacuation.
Can we have, so Ronnie, it looks like we should consider adding indivisible to the agenda and
The evacuation drill.
Evacuation drills, so hey Labana.
Yeah.
Mark. So I think, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.